Last week, I made you a promise. I told you that the next time we sat down at this table, I would show you the $15 pan that plain families hand down for 100 years. Well, here it is, a plain cast iron skillet. But before I put it in your hands, let me ask you something. You have thrown away a frying pan, haven't you? The non-stick coating started flaking off into your scrambled eggs. Food that never used to stick suddenly stuck to the bottom. So out it went, into the kitchen trash, and you drove to the store and bought another one just like it. And if you are anything like most folks watching this, you have not done that once. You have done it 3 or 4 times, maybe more, over the years. Now look at this skillet sitting on the stovetop. It costs about $15, maybe $20. It will outlive you. It will outlive your children. And here is the part that is going to stick with you. There is a black layer that builds up on the surface of this pan that the entire cookware industry spent 50 years and millions of dollars trying to copy, bottle, and sell back to you, and they never once matched it. I am going to show you exactly what that black layer is before this video is over. I learned to cook on a skillet just like this one at a kitchen table in Holmes County, Ohio. My name is Nicholas Stoltzfus. Pull up a chair. So where does a pan like this even come from? Because this is not some clever modern invention sitting in a blister pack at the store. This is one of the oldest tools human beings have ever made. Cast iron is ancient. The oldest cast iron artifacts anybody has ever dug up date all the way back to the 5th century before Christ in China. People have been pouring molten iron into molds to cook their supper for more than 2,000 years. From China, cast iron traveled slowly west along the old Silk Road trade routes, and it took centuries to catch on in Europe. For a long time over there, iron was poured into cannons and artillery before anybody thought to make a cooking pot out of it. Then, in 1709, an Englishman named Abraham Darby worked out how to smelt iron cheaply using coke instead of charcoal. And that one breakthrough is what eventually put a cast iron pot in the reach of an ordinary family. Cast iron crossed the ocean with the earliest American settlers, hanging over open fires in colonial kitchens long before there was a United States. Think about that for a second. Nearly every gadget in your kitchen will be sitting in a landfill within 10 years. And here is a design so good it has been in continuous use since before the Roman Empire. And the reason it survived that long is almost laughably simple. You cannot kill the thing. A cast iron skillet does not have parts that break. It does not have electronics that fail. It is a single slab of iron. You can run it over hot coals, drop it on a stone floor, leave it out in the weather, and it does not care. There is a whole world of collectors who hunt down old skillets at farm auctions and estate sales, pans that were poured in the 1800s and are still cooking breakfast today, 150 years later. Let me tell you how tough this stuff really is. You can take a skillet that has been forgotten in a damp barn for 40 years, a pan that is solid orange with rust and looks like pure garbage, and you can bring it all the way back to life at your own kitchen sink. You scrub the rust off with steel wool. You wash it down, you rub it with a little oil, and you bake it in a hot oven. And that ruined barn fine skillet comes out of that oven, looking and cooking like the day it was poured a century ago. There is no other pan on earth you can do that with. Try resurrecting the warped, peeling non-stick pan in your cabinet that way, and you will just fill the kitchen with smoke. There is an old Amish neighbor I grew up around, a man named Amish, who would sooner fix a thing 9 times over than throw it out and buy a new one. He had a skillet that came down to him from his grandfather, black and smooth as riverstone from generations of use. To him, a pan that lasted 100 years was not a marvel. It was just normal. That was the whole idea baked into the way I was raised. You did not own a pan and use it up. You kept it, you cared for it, and you handed it to the next person at the table. Now, I have not even told you who poured these pans yet, or the secret of that black layer I promised you in the very beginning. Both of those are coming, and the black layer is the part that is going to change how you cook. But first, let me introduce you to the foundries. The American cast iron story runs through 3 great foundries, and you have probably got a piece of one of them in your house and do not even know it. The first is Griswold. Griswold was founded back in 1865 in Erie, Pennsylvania, right at the end of the Civil War, by a man named Matthew Griswold and his cousins. They did not even start with cookware. Their first building was known as the Butt Factory because they made door hinges and small hardware. By the 1870s and the 1880s, they had turned to skillets, first under the name Erie, and then under that familiar Griswold cross stamped right into the bottom of the pan. The iron they poured became the gold standard for the whole country. To this day, a real Griswold skillet with that maker's mark is a prized, collectible, heirloom piece that people pay serious money to get their hands on at farm auctions. The second foundry is Wagner, founded in 1891 in Sydney, Ohio, right in my home state, by 2 brothers named Milton and Bernard Wagner. Wagner and Griswold were the 2 giants, the finest cast iron America ever made, and the 2 of them poured the pans that are still sitting on stovetops 100 years later. Wagner was also clever enough to move into lighter aluminum cookware early, which is a detail worth remembering, because that lighter metal is part of what nearly killed this whole tradition. And the third foundry is Lodge. Joseph Lodge started his foundry in 1896 in a tiny town called South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, a place of only a few thousand people, named in the hopes of becoming an iron-making capital like Pittsburgh up in Pennsylvania. And here is what truly matters about Lodge. It is still there. While Griswold shut down and the others faded away, Lodge kept its fires lit. It is still pouring cast iron in that same little Tennessee town today, still owned and run by the descendants of the Lodge family, one of the oldest cookware makers in continuous operation in the entire United States. When my grandmother's people in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, talked about a pan that would last forever, this is the iron they had in mind. Not a brand you replace every few years, a name you write into a will. Now I owe you that black layer, and this is the whole heart of the matter, so listen close. That dark, glassy, slightly slick coating on a well-used cast iron skillet is not dirt. It is not grime you are supposed to scrub off. And it is most certainly not some brand name spray you buy in a bottle down the cooking aisle. It is called seasoning, and it is the entire secret of this pan. Here is what actually happens. When you rub a thin film of oil onto hot iron and bake it, the heat changes that oil. It does not just dry, it hardens, it bonds right onto the metal, and it turns into a tough, smooth, slick surface that food slides off of. Chemists have a precise word for it. The oil polymerizes. It links up into a hard plastic-like coating that is baked permanently onto the skillet. And that, in plain kitchen English, is the original nonstick surface. People had a naturally nonstick pan 100 years before a chemical company ever sold them one. But here is the part that should knock you flat. The seasoning repairs itself. Every single time you cook a little bacon or fry an egg in a touch of oil, you are laying down another microscopic layer onto that surface. The pan does not wear out the more you use it. It gets better the more you use it. Damage it, scratch it, scorch it, and you do not throw it away. You just cook in it again, or you re-oil it and bake it once more, and the surface heals right back. A cast iron skillet is the rare thing in your whole house that improves with age and hard work, like a good leather boot or a well-worn saddle. My grandmother's skillet was black as coal and smooth as glass, and as a boy, I thought it was just old and dirty. It was not dirty. It was decades of her own cooking, baked right into the iron, a surface no money could buy. That black layer is exactly what the cookware industry spent 50 years and a fortune trying to put in a can and sell to you. And they never could, because you do not buy seasoning, you build it. No factory on earth can pour a lifetime of your own Sunday breakfast into a spray bottle. So sit with this for a second. If this pan is cheap, lasts forever, and gets better with age, how on earth did it end up shoved to the dark back corner of your cabinet? How did the perfect pan lose? Because it did lose for a good 50 years, and the story of how is the story of your whole kitchen. It started in the 1950s. Lighter cookware arrived, shiny new aluminum and stainless steel pans. And they were modern and easy to lift. And suddenly, heavy old cast iron looked like something from your grandmother's farmhouse, which it was. Cast iron fell out of fashion almost overnight. The great Griswold foundry up in Erie could not survive it and closed its doors in 1957. And then came the coating that finished the job. Back in 1938, a chemist at DuPont named Roy Plunkett was working on gases for refrigerators. And one morning, he and his assistant opened a metal canister expecting gas to hiss out, and instead found a strange, slippery, waxy white powder coating the inside. They had to saw the canister open to get at it, a complete accident. That powder was Teflon. For its first years, it had nothing to do with kitchens at all. It was such a tough, slick, chemical-proof material that the government used it on the Manhattan Project, sealing the pipes and valves that handled the materials for the atomic bomb. It was practically a wartime secret, but around 1960, that slippery powder finally made its way onto the bottom of a household frying pan, and I will be honest with you, it was a marvel. It was light, it was slick. An egg slid right across it and out onto the plate. You needed no skill and almost no oil, and you could wipe it clean with a single paper towel. People loved it, and I genuinely understand why they did. But here is the catch, and the catch is the entire game. That non-stick coating is just a thin skin sprayed onto metal. It scratches. One metal spatula, one pan stacked wrong in the sink, one burner cranked too high, and over a year or two that coating wears thin, then it starts to flake and peel into your food. And once it peels, that pan is finished. There is no fixing it, no recoating it at home. You scrape it into the trash and you go buy another one. Look, a pan that has to be thrown out and rebought every couple of years is not a defect in the business. It is the business. It is the whole quiet engine of it. The cast iron skillet your great-grandmother cooked on every single day was a genuine problem for any company that needs you walking back through the store doors. You simply cannot sell a second skillet to a woman whose first skillet still works perfectly and will go right on working long after she is gone. So the industry stopped selling pans that last and started selling pans that expire. And we let them, because expiring pans are easy, and easy is a powerful thing. Now, I want to be careful and honest with you here, because this is exactly the spot where a lot of videos go off the rails and try to scare you half to death. For decades, a manufacturing chemical called PFOA was used to make that non-stick coating, and it became the subject of some very large lawsuits. American manufacturers phased it out by around 2015, and the non-stick pans being made today are made without it. So let me say this plainly. I am not here to tell you the pan in your kitchen right now is poisoning your family. That is not what this is about, not even a little. This video is about durability. It is about value. It is about a coating that was designed on purpose to wear out and be replaced, sitting on a shelf right next to a pan that was built to last 10 lifetimes. The fear angle belongs to somebody else's channel. Mine is just about what lasts and what doesn't. And because I promised you straight talk at this table, here is the other side of the ledger, because cast iron is not perfect, and I am not going to pretend that it is. It is heavy. A big skillet loaded with a pot roast is a real load for an older wrist, and that is no small thing if your hands aren't what they used to be. It needs that seasoning kept up, a little care after each meal, a quick wipe, and a light coat of oil before it goes back on the shelf. You cannot just throw it in the dishwasher and walk away. It heats up slower than a thin pan, so it takes a minute to come up to temperature. And if the seasoning is thin and you cook something very acidic in it, like a tomato sauce simmered for hours, the iron can react and leave a faint metallic taste. Meanwhile, nonstick truly is lighter, and for a delicate piece of fish or an egg white omelet cooked with no oil at all, it is honestly easier, and it asks no skill of you whatsoever. So that is the real trade, said straight across the table. Nonstick is easy and it is temporary. Cast iron asks a little something of you, and then it stays for 100 years. You are not really choosing the better pan. You are choosing what kind of relationship you want with the things you bring into your home. Now do a little arithmetic in your head. The same kind my grandmother did at her kitchen table without ever once writing it down. One cast iron skillet, bought a single time for about the price of 2 restaurant lunches, and then used nearly every day for the rest of your life, and after that, your children's lives. Set that against a non-stick pan that you replace every 2 or 3 years, over and over and over for 50 years. I do not need to put a single number up on the board for you to feel, right in your gut, which one of those is the better deal. And here is the part that ought to sting a little. The cast iron pan was always the cheaper one, the frugal choice, the self-reliant choice, the choice that quietly ties you back to the people who raised you, was sitting on the bottom shelf the entire time, costing less than the thing you kept hauling out to the trash. The Plain families I grew up among in Ohio did not keep their cast iron because they were sentimental about it. They kept it because paying twice for the same pan is just plain foolishness, and foolishness was never welcome at our supper table. So here is what has been gnawing at me, the same thing that gnawed at me with that $1 box of baking soda. The pan that lasts forever was sitting right there on the shelf the entire time, cheaper than the one you keep throwing away. Nobody hid it from you. They just made it look old-fashioned and heavy and slow, and sold you something shinier that they knew full well you would be back to replace in a couple of years. And once you really see that pattern, you start spotting it in room after room of your own house. Which brings me to next week, because there is an appliance sitting in your laundry room that Plain families never owned and never once missed. And it is quietly shredding your clothes and cutting years off the life of every shirt and towel you put into it. You run it almost every day. You think it is saving you time, and the whole while it has been chewing your wardrobe to lint right under your nose. I am going to show you the proof, and the simple old thing that quietly replaces it next week at this table. If you want to be here for it, go ahead and subscribe. I am Nicholas Stoltzfus. Pull your chair back up to this table.